1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Good morning. Hello. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. 1, 2, 1, 2, 2020 Sustainable Business Report. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Yeah, I want to, yeah, yeah. Is it, yeah, yeah, I just want to, hi, how are you? Yeah, cool. Oh, we want to do it from the bottom, okay.
Let me see. No, what I can do? Let me just. No, no,
Is
no,
there
no,
a
no,
gun?
no, no. Let me get a tape. Let me just tape it down some.
Here, okay. Okay. There, okay, all right, that's fine. Cool. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2.
discovered opportunities. Resourceful, resilient Kenyans discovered opportunities in the disruption.
Want to test it again? 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Good morning. Welcome to the launch of the Sustainable Business Report 2020. It's the race to 2030. How you doing? How you doing? 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Is that okay? Okay, cool.
Check 1 2 1 2. Mic check 1 2 2 2 2. So check 1 2 2 2 2 1 2. Check 1 2.
Hello, good morning, and welcome. I hope you've started off your day well. It's the 14th day of October 2020, and this is the launch of the Safaricom Sustainable Business Report 2020. It is the 9th such report we are launching here. I'm Yvonne Okwara, and I will take you through this morning's session. We are set to begin in just a few minutes, and we want to say a very warm welcome to all our invited guests who are joining us virtually this year on Zoom, as has been the new normal. And we're also live on Safaricom PLC. Those are our handles on Facebook and on YouTube. So thank you very much. We'll be starting in less than 5 minutes from now. The hashtag we're using across all social media is Sustainable Safaricom. We are live on Facebook, we are live on YouTube at Safaricom PLC, and karibuni sana to all of our invited guests who are joining us via Zoom. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the new normal, but we carry on nonetheless. We're building better, we're building forward, and we're getting resilient. We'll be telling you about everything you need to know about the Sustainable Business Report that we are launching here this morning. Our guests are here, and we're ready to begin in the next 2 minutes. So stay with us here. Hashtag is Sustainable Safaricom.
Resourceful, resilient Kenyans discovered opportunities in the disruption brought about by the global pandemic.
I was in catering.
Good, how
COVID-19
are you?
affected our life. Our jobs completely closed. Groceries and catering, they are not far much apart. So now I had to think of something that will complement the catering. The experience was not very smooth because I wasn't used to this, waking up early at 4 a.m., going to the markets. It wasn't easy, but I got used. We started with WhatsApp groups and Facebook group. That is how we've been able to get clients for our supplies.
Enabled by reliable, affordable, and accessible home data services, many more can sustain their livelihoods.
Safaricom Home Fiber has really enhanced our business such a way that I can just post from my house because I have strong internet, and in the morning I have clients that are getting back to get the produce, and also the 4G. It has really helped us. We have clients that we started with, they order every week. So if they don't order, we make sure that we check on them and give them the latest prices so that at least you can remind them that they need to order from you. Maybe like when they order, we can throw in something that they have not bought before, and then the next time they will buy the produce. Most of the farmers, they have partnered with us. When I post my produce, they come on or inbox and ask me, are you able to buy this product? They have been able to get us through online. It's like we've made a rapport with the farmers. COVID-19 has really shaped the online business in Kenya because not everyone is able to leave their houses to go to the markets, to go to the shops to buy what they need. So they prefer the online deliveries, whereby they'll just order and you deliver to their houses.
Wanaprefer Paite Farm Fresh online shopping. Sababu hii COVID ninaona ni kazi ngumu kwenda huko kwa soko, mahali kuna congestion ya watu, saa ingine unakosa ile kitu unataka. Ukienda online kwa Facebook naweza pata fruits pale, kuna aina yote ya vegetables, hata cereals siko. Unaweza kuona ile kitu unataka, ile kitu hakuna, and then you pick na wanaweza kukudeliver kwa haraka zaidi. Unaletewa tu na motorbike.
They're using cashless payments. Most of my clients, they pay via M-PESA. We have a till number, Palde Farm Fresh. Mostly when we deliver, we give them an invoice, and then now they pay via M-PESA.
I am for you.
Well, welcome once again. We are now ready to begin with our presentation this morning. Thank you so much to all our guests joining us virtually. We thank you so much for keeping time. This today here is the launch of the 2020 Sustainable Business Report by Safaricom. And this report covers the period between the 1st of April 2019 and the 31st of March 2020. It is a tradition of Safaricom since 2012, documenting the journey towards sustainability, this race towards 2030 in an open, honest, accountable, and transparent manner. We'll talk about the successes, the challenges, the constraints, and indeed where we want to go and what we want to do in the days and weeks. You are joining us virtually, live, and that is because of the space and time in which we find ourselves. But like we said, we are resilient. Joining us on Zoom, asanteni sana. You're joining us on Facebook and on YouTube. Our handles online are Safaricom PLC. And the hashtag we're using this morning is Sustainable Safaricom. And like we said, interesting times we're living in, which is why the theme of this year's report is Resilience through Transition. Never has this been so important to discuss at a time like this? Disruptions that we have seen both internally at Safaricom and of course externally with the COVID-19 pandemic that is global, but still working towards building better, bouncing back. Now, because we're talking about resilience this morning, I looked up the word and what it means. Resilience is actually a measure of how much you want something, how much you are willing and able to overcome obstacles to get it. So how willing are you to commit towards the Sustainable Development Goals? We've got about 10 years to go, and that is why Safaricom issues these reports year after year to just talk about where we are in a very collaborative, open, and honest manner. So the hashtag again is Sustainable Safaricom, and it's at Safaricom PLC on Twitter, on Facebook, and on YouTube. So thank you very much to all of you here. We have our special guests here. We'll be having a great conversation, and we also look forward to your feedback using that hashtag. And we'll also be telling you how you can make your own commitments in the organizations in which you work and your own commitments to sustainability. That is the only way to go. If COVID-19 has proven anything, it is that businesses must be sustainable and must be resilient to weather the shocks that come with it. So, we will get to the days first, but remember, this is a big year for Safaricom as well, turning 20. And as we do here at Safaricom, one of the things we value the most is crucial partners, dealers, agents who have been part of the drive to transform the lives of Kenyans. One of those dealers has been with Safaricom from day one. She started off with, get this, her entire savings, which were 50,000 shillings. And she's now grown her company that employs up to 1,000 people. Actually, it's more than 1,000 people. She's currently the chair of the Safaricom Dealers Association. And in what you're about to watch, a video we'd like you to watch, take a look at her journey over the last 20 years and how she's building resilience now and beyond. Let's watch.
My name is Esther Mushemi. Well, I've been a Safaricom dealer as far back as when Safaricom started. So we have been with Safaricom and they have been our partners for the last 20 years. When you look at it, many industries in the nation, in the country, in the world have been affected differently. Just imagine you're in business and you are told from tomorrow the borders have been closed. The county borders and the international borders. And the first thing we ask ourselves, we are all in the counties. How are we going to relate? How are our logistics going to happen? And I dare say, yes, it is the first disruption, but I'm sure it is not going to be the last one. And so as business people then, we have to teach ourselves and to learn how do we remain relevant even when circumstances and situations change. One of the things that I've discovered is that yes, diversification is very important. And I guess perhaps we need to start thinking rather than only leaning on one product. One thing that I've learned, and I think especially small, medium enterprises must adapt to, is the use of technology. I think it's about time that us, as small, medium enterprise, begin to have confidence in our ability and the impact we have in our economy.
Ladies and gentlemen, that's Esther Mushemi. She is the chair of the Safaricom Dealers Association, and it's all about bolstering the work that is being done by SMEs, which form the bedrock of the economy, but also which have been hardest hit. And the fact that disruptions such as COVID are not the first, it's certainly are not the last, certainly the first of many. But how do we build resilience? How do we diversify in terms of the products and services that are provided to enable us weather disruption after disruption? Remember, the theme of the Sustainable Business Report that we're launching today is resilience through transition. And I think Esther Mushemi puts it very well in that video. So without further ado, let me invite Steve Chege, who's the Chief Corporate Affairs Officer, to begin with our opening remarks here this morning. Karibu sana, Steve.
Members of the Board of Directors of Safaricom PLC, our CEO, Mr. Peter Ndegwa, distinguished guests, members of the Fourth Estate and the blogging community, my colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Thank you for joining us as we launch our 9th Sustainable Business Report today. Simply put, sustainability is a business approach to creating long-term value by taking into consideration how an organization operates in the ecological, socio, and economic environment. Sustainability is built on the assumption that developing such strategies fosters a company's long-term success. The value of sustainability reporting is that it ensures organizations consider their impacts on the issues that I've just mentioned above and enables them to be transparent about the risks that they face and the opportunities that they also encounter. In today's world, it is not good enough to simply make claims about your level of sustainability. We need to provide a tangible, credible, and demonstrable way of measuring this by following the proper guidelines for sustainability reporting. In other words, it is important to show the numbers, but equally important to show how these numbers were achieved. As a company, we seek to contribute to sustainable business throughout Kenya and remain committed to managing our operations responsibly and ethically. That is why, since 2012, we have published an annual Sustainable Business Report to disclose the progress we have made towards building a more sustainable way of working. This report offers an overview of what we have achieved in the year and a review. We have been documenting our sustainability journey because we believe in holding ourselves accountable by sharing our success, our challenges, and constraints in a public, transparent, and open manner. We also publish this report because we believe that we have a duty to raise awareness of the sustainability challenges that we face as a society and to ensure that this remain part of a broader discussion here and elsewhere. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to trace Safaricom's sustainability journey. Safaricom's purpose is to transform lives, a vision that permeates every decision we make and drives us to push the traditional boundaries of doing business to create value for our society. We believe that the role of business extends far beyond making profits, which is why the company's vision is to use its products and services to improve the quality of life and contribute to sustainable livelihoods throughout Kenya. In 2012, we integrated the Sustainable Development Goals into our corporate strategy, and we have adopted 9 of the 17 SDGs and are working to incorporate this into how we work and how we measure our objectives, both as a company and at individual levels. In making the SDGs a central pillar of our business, we have made sustainable development a part of Safaricom organizational and company culture. In the report that we're going to launch today, it is, as you have heard, dubbed Resilience Through Transition. The report highlights some of the significant disruptions we faced during the year and demonstrates how the business continues to be resilient and strong. Despite the disruptions we continue to face because of the COVID-19 pandemic, our business continues to contribute towards successfully improving the quality of life for Kenyans across the country. Using the KPMG True Value methodology, we have been able to conduct inclusive assessments and build a foundation from which to explore new solutions to further increase the value we create for society. For example, in the last financial year, the value we created for our society was measured at 9 times the profit that we reported. This is the equivalent of 6.3% of Kenya's gross domestic product. This was supported by over 1 million jobs, which we sustained both directly and indirectly, an increase of 4% compared to the previous years. Some of the key initiatives that supported this, which you will read about in the report, include our continued commitment to supporting local suppliers, which saw overall spend on them increase by 7%. However, we know that there is still some work to be done on our procurement and spend on women-led businesses, which dropped slightly by less than 1% and remain a bit low at 2.3%. As part of our ongoing commitment to the SDGs, we also continue to work towards improving energy and resource efficiency in our network and facilities to reduce our carbon emission and consumption. We know that for us to arrest climate change, we must take drastic action today. Therefore, Safaricom made a bold commitment to become a zero carbon emitting company by 2030. In the last financial year, we were able to increase the number of sites using solar and hybrid clean power by 12.8%. And we also achieved 9% reduction in the overall carbon footprint. Last year, we announced our ambition to grow 5 million indigenous trees as our primary carbon offset initiative. The initiative is a partnership with the Kenya Forest Services, local community forest associations, and seeks to achieve this milestone over the next 5 years. To date, we have grown over 550,000 trees at various sites across the country and look forward to planting another 500,000 trees in this financial year. The initiative is expected to offset about 26% of our carbon emissions once these trees have grown to maturity. In time, additional benefits from the forestation project will include providing jobs and stimulating economic growth in the local community through generating income for the sales of seedlings, ecotourism, and beekeeping. We welcome our fellow corporates to take up this initiative to make Kenya green. We also committed to a plastic-free Safaricom and continue to collect and recycle waste, including e-waste, electronic waste. In fact, yesterday we announced our commitment to working with the partners and regulators to support informal sector in the e-waste management. Through our integrated waste management program, we continue to recycle 97% of the waste that we generate as a company. And we have also collected over 1,200 tons of e-waste since we started our program. Later, my colleague Karen will go into more details as we look at what is contained in the report. But as I conclude, let me reiterate that the reason we share this example is not just to show what Safaricom is doing, but to show that it can be done no matter how small or big the organization is. Each of us, whether as individuals or organizations, can and should play a role in bringing sustainability to the forefront. When we commit to sustainable business, we create a virtuous circle. Good for customers, good for employees, good for business, good for the planet, and good for our collective future. Thank you.
Indeed, thank you very much, Steve Chege, for just putting that into perspective. And sustainability goes around the shared value principles, which is that a company cannot be successful in and of itself. It has to ensure that all of those around them, in the community in which that organization exists and thrives, that they are also thriving. And that is what he was talking about with taking a look at what's happening with the various partners at Safaricom. And you've already heard from Esther Mushemi, and we'll show you what other women are doing as well. And that is living the values and the principles. If you can commit to just one, Safaricom here saying committed to 9 of the 17, and it is a journey. And we have 10 years, and you can begin that first step right now. Remember the hashtag we're using is Sustainable Safaricom at Safaricom PLC. We are live on Zoom, we are live on Facebook, and we are live on YouTube as well. Thank you very much, Steve Chege, for those opening remarks. And now, let me invite the Chief Executive Officer of Safaricom PLC, Mr. Peter Ndegwa, to come and give us his remarks as well. Karibu sana, Peter.
Thank you. Thank you, Yvonne. Love your energy. The board members invited today or present today, invited guests, including panelists this morning, management members of management, my colleagues at Safaricom, invited guests, whether physically here at Safaricom or actually online, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining us for the launch of the 2020 Safaricom Sustainable Business Report. This year's theme, as you've heard, is resilience through transition. And I think it captures the mood of the business environment we are currently operating in during this COVID crisis. The Safaricom leadership was disrupted by the passing of the late Bob Collymore at the start of July of 2019. But the business and the team at hand was able to navigate the turbulence of this sudden loss. And coming in as a new CEO, I found it in capable hands when I joined Safaricom on April 1st. This is the spirit of sustainability, that a business can withstand the significant disruption because the fundamentals are strong and resilient. The purpose of this report this year is to share our successes, our failures, and the challenges in an open and transparent manner. And this is in line with our brand promise of being simple, transparent, and honest. We have published the sustainability report since 2012, and because we believe we have a duty to raise the awareness of the sustainability challenges that we face in society, and to ensure that this remain part of the discussion in Kenya and regionally. This year in particular, more than ever, we've had to show Safaricom's strength as a digital and technology service provider because we become a lifeline for many Kenyans during this pandemic. Since March, a good number of Kenyans have worked from home and often been separated from their families. During this time, Safaricom team has ensured that our products and services keep our customers connected to their families and livelihood while supporting their aspirations and the requirements as consumers, as businesses, and as public sector clients. We do not take it for granted that our products and services play a central role for about 35.6 million Kenyans. This is why we remain committed to managing our operations ethically and responsibly. Safaricom exists to fulfill a purpose. We believe we exist to transform lives. So in 2016, we linked our growth strategy to the UN 17 Sustainable Development Goals, that is the SDGs, out of which we adopted 9. This has enabled Safaricom become a more sustainable company, creating meaningful impact on communities that we live, on the communities that we have been given an opportunity to serve. I'll now talk briefly about customer experience, which is a core part of our strategy, and I believe a core element of sustainability. So our customers have always been core to everything we do. This is because we believe we can only run a successful business if communities we serve are thriving. For You, our For You campaign was launched in October 2019 by my predecessor, Michael Joseph, to renew our commitment to our customers to be simple, transparent, and honest. Amongst the significant changes that Safaricom made as part of the campaign were a commitment to serve the 35.6 million customers in under 5 minutes within our call center or in our shops, and also to reorganize our shops across the country to provide a more personalized experience to our customers. From November 1st, 2019, new customers joining our network receive SIM cards for free at Safaricom shops and dealer outlets. They also have the freedom to use their choice of numbers when they purchase a new line. An increase in sizes of available data bundles by more than 45%, especially for the more affordable price points between 1 and 20 shillings. And we know we need to do more. As we continue to drive the agenda of simplifying our product, we have revamped all monthly plans to Safaricom postpay proposition. As of 31st March 2020, 27,000 new customers have registered to the new proposition. As a result of these measures, the total number of customers grew by 3.8 million, and our overall market share increased by 2.6%. It was a year of solid growth for our enterprise customers too, who comprise large enterprises, small to medium-sized enterprises, and small offices, what we call SOHO, small offices and home offices. We currently have a presence of over 286,000 enterprise customers, an increase of more than 105,000 customers from the previous year. This has been occasioned by the acquisition of an additional 21,000 SMEs and 85,000 small offices and home office customers. Some estimates suggest that SMEs provide employment to approximately 80% of Kenyans and contribute 40% of economic activity. SMEs are the lifeblood of our economy. Our Lipa and M-PESA merchants fit into this category. That is where we've increased transaction limits and zero-rated person-to-person transactions below 1,000, and also M-PESA wallet-to-bank transactions and also bank-to-wallet transactions to cushion them from the negative impact of the corona pandemic. We are aware that more needs to be done. We've begun exploring ways to partner with both government entities and also with banks in this regard. In the meantime, my team is looking into how we can continue to expand the Merchant Till app, but also into a holistic suite of tools. We've also launched Lipa na M-PESA business app to empower SMEs and micro business owners to access statements, make payments, and also monitor their business performance in real time. You'll also have heard of the Transacting Till, which allow micro and also SMEs to do a lot more, to pay salaries, to transfer to banks, to pay employees, and indeed to be able to pay suppliers. I'll now briefly talk about our investment in infrastructure for more value to our customers, and which is a critical part of delivering a sustainable business. One of the significant changes in 2020 is the accelerated transition into remote working. There's a lot of talk about the future of work. In F20, in financial year 2020, we rolled out sites, especially 4G-enabled sites, which are a critical part of enabling access, better access to the internet and our data agenda, adding an additional 2,300 kilometers to our fiber optic network and connected 1,320 enterprise buildings. We've also passed an additional 42,105 houses and thereby connected 34,238 homes to our network. As a result, we've connected over 142,000 homes and 11,911 businesses to our fiber network to date. Our capital expenditure for the last financial year was Kenya shillings 36.1 billion, spent in our quest to become the digital services provider of choice to Kenyans. Our plan is to continue our aggressive rollout of fiber connectivity to support remote working, learning, and also general connectivity because our economy depends on it. Through Lipa Mdogo Mdogo, which is a device financing scheme, will enable 1 million more lower-income Kenyans to connect to the internet using a flexible payment plan that was made possible by a partnership with Google and Teleone. I'll now briefly talk about delivering on our strategy and why it is critical, a critical part of our sustainability. All these activities align with our long-term objectives of creating a society where the mobile phone can enable our customers to do more. This small gadget called the mobile phone has become a way of life for many Kenyans, be it for making phone calls, carrying out monetary transactions, accessing healthcare, improving agricultural output, or indeed accessing education. We will continue investing in data and on M-PESA so that we can provide more value to our customers. We will continue to invest in our business and to pursue new business interests. We know that we have the right mix of talent, the right mix of technology to provide transformative innovation with one goal in mind, which is our purpose of transforming lives. Thank you for attending this event. Thank you very much.
Indeed, thank you very much, Mr. Ndegwa, CEO of Safaricom PLC, for just setting this in perspective. And we'll be hearing more from the CEO in a panel discussion we'll be having in just a short while from now. Now, there was a recent article in a local daily titled, "A Time to Think Seriously About Sustainable Development." And in that article, this is what Dr. Bitange Ndemo writes. He says, "The eagerness to start from where we paused and to continue with business as usual, irrespective of the uncertainties that lie ahead, is simply a waste of time. It would mean we learned nothing from this experience and that we let the opportunity presented by this crisis slip through our fingers. Resilience through transition, we truly are in that moment. So what does it mean for all of these commitments that we made for businesses, for continuing to remain sustainable even through crisis?" Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Bitange Ndemo here to make his remarks as the chairman's representative. Karibu sana, Daktari.
Sid Chatterjee, who is the UN Resident Coordinator here in Kenya, our CEO, Peter Ndewa, the chairman of CMA, my brother Kibrono Kitonyi, Safaricom board members, the staff who are here, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Good morning. You seem to be sad. We are taking account of our social responsibility. On behalf of our chairman and the board of directors, it is my great pleasure to present our 9th Sustainable Business Report. The theme of this year's report is Resilience Through Transition. The report describes in detail how unexpected major events severely tested the fundamentals of our business during the period under review. Early in the year, we were tested by an unexpected leadership transition when our CEO, Bob Collymore, suddenly and sadly passed away. A few months later, the global health emergency created by the COVID-19 pandemic reached our shores. We still are feeling the impact. At the start of the financial year, we were optimistic that the economy would improve. But in the latter year of 2019, the country was facing headwinds, which included, amongst others, a locust invasion that affected crop production. Before we got that out of the way, the COVID-19 pandemic struck in March, turning all attention to managing the developing health crisis. Against this challenging economic backdrop, we had to rely on the company's established and strong foundations as we sought to support our customers at a time when they needed us most. We are satisfied that the business has demonstrated extraordinary resilience in a time of great distress. For the last 20 years, we have been able to build a company whose focus goes well beyond its profit-making ability. Our products and services provide solutions that are relevant, effective, successful, and sustainable. It is for this reason that our business has not only been able to sustain a very tough period in its history, but also has been able to support Kenyans along the way. On the regulatory issues, the board considers sound corporate governance, ethical behavior, proactive risk management, and regulatory compliance to be fundamental to our commercial sustainability. If the business is not run in an ethical, transparent, and accountable manner, we will be impacted by legal and reputational risk. While we have traditionally held the view that Safaricom's business strategy is guided by our customers' needs, we are cognizant of the immense need to ensure a healthy relationship within the regulatory environment. During this period, we had two key highlights in the regulatory environment. The first was the signing of the Data Protection Act into law in November 2019. The Act brought clarity and certainty regarding the collection and use of personal data. We welcome the legislation, and we believe that it will promote greater trust between customers and companies, which in turn will enable innovation and progress to flourish. The second highlight was the progress made regarding new quality of service framework. We believe that the new methodology being developed by the Communications Authority of Kenya represents a significant improvement on the previous testing metrics and procedures. Allow me to talk a little bit about the network stability and resilience. Safaricom's views sustainability as a business response to challenges we face as a society. We at Safaricom have frequently stated that the business of doing business is not just business anymore. It is much more than that. Through our sustainable business report, we aim to illustrate how this is incorporated into our strategy. In the last financial year, we kept up our commitment to keeping Kenya connected by ensuring network stability. We invested 36 billion shillings in the modernization of equipment during the year. We expanded our reach through 2,284 additional base transceiver stations and 2,300 kilometers more of fiber optic cable. And you could see the results from last week's Business Daily article that Safaricom has taken the lead on fiber to home. This enabled us to meet the surge in demand for voice and data triggered by the lockdown in the current financial year. Despite the uncertainty that lies ahead, we expect to increase our year-on-year investment in the network in the coming financial year. The Safaricom also has been supporting government and the people of Kenya during COVID-19. Sustainable business must ensure inclusive business, drive economic growth, and respond to the needs of its society. We remain committed to supporting the government and the people of Kenya. We have contributed more than 6.5 billion in cash, goods, and services to fight the fight against the COVID-19 pandemic so far. We appreciate that part of the reason we have been able to offer this support is that we operate in a regulatory environment that allows pioneering companies to succeed. As the independent true value assessment featured in this report highlights, we sustained more than 1 million jobs directly and indirectly this year and spent 64 billion with local suppliers. We remain committed to supporting the government during these unprecedented times. As we look ahead to the post-pandemic revival of the economy, we urge the government to balance revenue recovery with encouraging business renewal and growth. We continue to be guided by the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, which are not only influencing a more sustainable approach to business, but also strengthening our commitment to ensuring that we leave no one behind. The commitment to transforming lives has seen us invest in our communities, empowering millions of Kenyans, and creating the kind of impact that is only possible when you put purpose and people first, because only then does profit follow. Finally, on behalf of the board, I would like to take this opportunity to recognize the resilience demonstrated by our staff members, suppliers, and partners during this challenging period. We should be pleased that we have done so while focusing on our purpose of transforming lives and our commitment to responsible business. We also remain committed to supporting the management team in the sustainability journey. There is evidence that balancing performance with sustainability, transparency, and good governance leads to long-term success. In that regard, I am satisfied that our integration of sustainable development goals into our daily operations and performance targets will stand us in good stead and ensure that we remain a purpose-driven company. I thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Bitange Ndemo, there with the remarks from the chairman of Safaricom PLC. Now, I would like us to now hear from a woman who spearheaded and championed sustainable development matters here at Safaricom for close to 12 years before taking this to the global stage, now heading a UN body that mobilizes 10,435 corporates, 3,000 non-business participants from across the world, 166 countries. Ladies and gentlemen, with her remarks, joining us from New York is Sanda Ojiambo. She's the CEO and Executive Director of United Nations Global Compact.
Ladies and gentlemen, business leaders and friends, greetings from New York. I'm Sanda Ojiambo, the CEO and Executive Director of the United Nations Global Compact. From my own experience in business, I know that companies have an enormous role to play in advancing the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. And frankly, there's a lot of work to do. Even before COVID-19, the world was off track to achieve the 17 SDGs and their 169 associated targets. Despite progress in areas such as poverty reduction and child survival, the underlying trends are worrying. Social and economic inequalities are widening for more than 70% of the world's population. Women face a vast and stubborn economic gender gap. Global warming is trending well above the limits set by the Paris Agreement on climate change. And the digital divide is still hindering global progress. Now, on top of these pre-existing conditions, COVID-19 has fueled a massive crisis in public health and human development. It is clear the pandemic could push tens of millions of people back into extreme poverty, the first increase in global poverty since 1998. Business as usual is no longer an option. In 2020, UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres launched a decade of action to fulfill the promise of the 2030 Agenda. As he said at the time, we need to move together, leaving no one behind. Those words ring true now more than ever. For business, the question is how to deliver on the SDGs in these uncertain times. One answer is to sign up to and follow the 10 principles of the UN Global Compact. We encourage business leaders everywhere to use the 10 principles as their guide in responding to crisis. To build forward better, the business community needs a coordinated international plan based on these principles and the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. Such a plan will be critical in efforts to support people and companies affected by the pandemic, to limit further economic disruption, and to ensure business continuity for a swift recovery. If COVID-19 has taught us anything, it is that our collective health and prosperity depend upon working together and leaving no one behind. In all these areas and more, we must also ramp up our ambitions and our actions. So together, let us seize this historic challenge and unite in the business of a better world. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sanda Ojiambo from New York. And that has been a call to action. She said, never a time has this been more important than right now, facing the biggest disruption, I think, but certainly there could be more. Now, I'd like us to do a little bit of an exercise because Sanda just called us to action, right? How many of you have made commitments to the sustainable goals? Wherever you're watching us from, in your own small way, remember there's 17 of them in your organization, whether you employ 2 people or 100 or 1,000 or 10,000, or you are an individual. At this point, I'd like you to log on with me to sustainability.me.ke, and me is M-E. All right? You can see that on your screens. Let's go to www.sustainability.me.ke. I'd like us to make some commitments here because it would mean nothing if we had the launch of this report and you are not inspired in one way or another to make a commitment to this here and right now today. It kind of feels like an altar call, so let's make it one of those. Make your commitment today. It takes just a few minutes. Here are some of the questions that you'll be asked. It's actually got just 3 questions. It's fairly simple. What SDG will your organization be championing as we enter the decade of action on SDGs? Remember, that was announced by the UN UN Secretary General. The decade for action, it's 2020. The race is on to 2030, when hopefully we will be able to have said we have some success with all of these 17 goals. So what SDG will your organization be championing as we enter the decade of action on SDGs? And then we just ask for your name and the name of your organization, and you submit. It is as easy as that. Won't take you more than just a few minutes. So please go to that site. Again, it's www.sustainability.me.ke. So it's what commitment are you making? Am I making? Me. All right, you and your organization, less than 5 minutes, guaranteed. It's definitely going to be something that you will leave this session with. So I'd like us to get into our keynote address, and we really thank our key guest for coming in here today, and a man who's spearheading this, of course, at the UN body as well, a man who's no stranger to Kenya, a man we all love and appreciate, and I think we will give him some honorary Kenyan status, for sure. Please, ladies and gentlemen, welcome Mr. Siddharth Chatterjee. He's the UN Resident Coordinator. Welcome, sir.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and to the CEO of Safaricom, Peter, I'm pleased to make your acquaintance today. My brother Kiprono, all the panelists present. You know, it's important for me to reflect on a piece of history, and that piece of history started in 2014, when I actually sat with Sanda Ojiambo, who just spoke before this, and Bob Collymore. And we were talking about the Beyond Zero campaign. We were talking about the high maternal mortality in Kenya. We were talking about Kenya being amongst the 10 most dangerous places for a woman to give birth. And then we talked about what is it that we could be doing to actually change this narrative. And that's when this journey really started, when in September of 2015 at the UN General Assembly, Bob Collymore, the former CEO of Safaricom, announced that 6 companies, and he represented all these companies with their agreement, Safaricom, Huawei, Kenya Healthcare Federation, Philips, Merck, and GlaxoSmithKline. And they said they will join us, 3 UN agencies, UNFPA, UNICEF, and WHO. Under the leadership of the government of Kenya, we launched into a reduction of maternal mortality program in 6 of the highest burden counties: Mandera, Wajir, Marsabit, Lamu, Isiolo, Garissa. By the end of 2016, we were able to actually reduce the maternal mortality ratios of these 6 counties by 1/3. And mind you, these 6 counties represented 50% of the maternal deaths in this country. So the national average in 2014 was 488 deaths per 100,000 live births. So the MDGs, if you recall, was meant to be less than 170. But in a matter of 3 years, Kenya was able to bring down the national average from 488 to 360. Now that is remarkable, because for many countries, this would take 10 to 15 years. But what this demonstrated was the might of this kind of partnership, a public-private partnership, which potentially, when taken to scale, can be so transformative. And we got invited to the World Economic Forum in 2017 to showcase this. And it was then in January of 2017, at the World Economic Forum in Davos, a decision was taken. That time, CS Cleopa Mailu was the Minister of Health. We were having long discussions as to what we should be doing. So we said, let's target universal health coverage as a potential outcome. And I'm pleased that President Kenyatta made this one of his top priorities. And perhaps every leader in the world will follow suit, because quite clearly COVID-19 has shown us the fragility of humanity in the wake of a pandemic, where even some of the most advanced countries, where we just assumed that their healthcare systems are so resilient and robust and advanced and sophisticated, will be able to weather any storm. And those very countries flipped over. So it was Herophilus, the Greek philosopher, who once said that, without health, we have nothing. And therefore, the COVID-19 pandemic has struck us like a bolt of lightning. And what it did during that bolt of lightning, that flash, we saw the contours of inequality, which became so stark, so visible. And not just inequality between countries, but inequalities within countries. Suddenly all that came to the surface. So, recently the UN Secretary General, and Kenya was invited, Kenya is already being seen by many as a trailblazer in the public-private partnership space. And the UN Secretary General at this event, which was hosted by the International Organization of Employers, I was invited on behalf of the UN in Kenya. He said at this event that while there is still, and I quote, while there is still a long way to go in the fight against COVID, many countries have been able to contain the spread of the virus. This was made possible in part because of the cooperation of governments, business, trade unions, and many others. The pandemic has reminded us of both the power and the imperative of global partnership, unquote. There are 4 critical areas that we could already see how we could actually be looking at leveraging this sort of public-private partnerships. And what does the role of the UN become? First and foremost, the UN is here as a national partner with the government and the people of Kenya. It has been involved in the country's development trajectory for a very, very long time. We do not bring the resources of the World Bank or international financial institutions or major banks. What we do bring is a moral compass to that discussion. What we do bring is our ability to convene, connect, and catalyze. What we do bring is to look at how, first of all, we can actually engage in a multilateral dialogue, and we encourage the private sector to become right into the center of this. Secondly, how do we engage here at the national level? So recently the Dag Hammarskjöld Foundation of Sweden did a study, and Kenya was featured in that study on how the UN is working with the private sector and other partners of unlocking financing, not funding, not looking at the traditional aid environment, but looking at real financing in order to start looking at perhaps the Big Four agenda. And globally, this is where we see the narrative will start to take shape. Thirdly, every company must, and Safaricom in many ways is leading the way, must be at the forefront in this dialogue of public-private partnerships. And fourthly, we have to invest in business, in jobs, and in growth. Why is that? What COVID-19 has also demonstrated is that old terminology of too big to fail, the biggest have failed, the mightiest have crumbled. The tourism industry has been badly impacted. People have been left jobless. Millions and millions of people jobless. The world is seeing a depression, an economic crisis which rivals the Great Depression of the early 1930s. So what does it mean now? I mean, when John Maynard Keynes, the famous economist, was alive, people never took him very seriously when he said that governments will have to invest in times of crisis in the private sector. And, he was discarded as someone who would not be, whose economic concepts were not relevant. Today, John Maynard Keynes is the man of the hour because many governments have had to resort to bailing out these companies. And it's necessary because jobs are at a loss and all that is happening. Which means we have an opportunity to define an entire new narrative. And that new narrative is going to be, how do we take charge of the big data, of the technology, of the innovation, and bring it all together to leapfrog the Sustainable Development Goals, as Safaricom has put it here, the race to 2030, and we all have to become an Eliud Kipchoge in that race. Everybody. Let's take the Big Four agenda. And I'll just give you it may sound outlandish, but today the technology and the reality is here. Let's take universal health coverage. When President Kenyatta announced universal health coverage was a priority, many looked at it and said, oh, it's probably not possible to do it. Ladies and gentlemen, if out of the Big Four agenda there is one thing that we can actually deliver the fastest, it is universal health coverage. Why? How do we take technology and innovation and leapfrog? How did we do it in the 6 northeastern counties of Kenya? It wasn't done because we went through the normal bureaucratic ways. We trained community health workers. We trained people at the health facilities. We encouraged women to seek care at the facilities because the government had a free maternal health care policy, 4 antenatal visits and a delivery and the postpartum care. So the public policy was in place. How do you encourage people to do that? We need 1 million jobs every year. Every year. Between the age group of 15 to 26, 1 million Kenyans are looking for work. And this is going to be the demographic trend over the next 10 years. Can you imagine that we actually start training young people in schools by the time they're about to leave in healthcare? They become technologically savvy with a backpack. It's happening right now in the Kibera slums. You actually have a midwife with a backpack connected to the internet, and she's able to actually go house to house and deliver 7 to 8 children. Can you imagine what the potential of that is? And imagine if we can actually pay that young person 100 shillings a day. And that money can also be found. It's all here. It's all within the market. We can create an army of community health workers, and we would actually be able to ensure that we achieve universal health coverage in the next 2 to 3 years, and it's not difficult to do. What is universal health coverage all about? It is about prevention. Today, many of our behaviors have changed. The COVID-19 hangs like the sword of the Damocles over our head. It has forced us to wash our hands. It has forced us to maintain physical distancing. It has forced us to wear a mask. It's not impossible to start changing these very behavioral trends. It's like the impact of HIV and what it did in terms of strengthening community healthcare. This is precisely what we need to do. Agriculture. I come from a country where the population of the country is 1.3 billion. 1.3 billion. We are soon overtaking China. India achieved food security by the late 70s into the early 80s. How? In 1966, India was under the throes of a severe famine. And on an average, we used to lose 1 million to 2 million people used to die because of these famines. President Lyndon Johnson, the US president then, was at war with Vietnam at that time. And he says, we have to deal with the famine in India like a war. So he sent down experts and a gentleman by the name of Lester Brown who came to India, and they looked at what the potential of India was, and the word Green Revolution was coined by the US, by the USAID administrator, and look what happened. In a matter of 20-25 years, suddenly India went on to becoming food secure. Kenya, ladies and gentlemen, could potentially be the breadbasket for all of Africa. We have everything here. What took India 30 years can today be done in 5 years. You have the seeds, you have the technology, you have the tools. Today, a drone can take off and pinpoint which are the areas that need drip irrigation, and it will start to grow. Go to Turkana, go to Lodwar and see some of these oases, which also has severe food insecurity. You'll find oases of great agricultural produce. Turkana is sitting on water bodies that can actually service Kenya with fresh water for 70 years. It's just extremely expensive to pull it out. How do we get the private sector investors to come into that space? How do we use big data technology and innovation to reform and change the agriculture sector? We will become food secure much faster, much quicker. Affordable housing. Today, the government has said that we want to have 500,000 houses by 2022. But Kenya's immediate need is 2 million houses. Immediate. That is what we need in the affordable housing space. How do we industrialize affordable housing. Again, the technology is here. There are countries which have already gone on to 3D printed technology. Today, houses can be done into 3D printed. So someone asked me, oh, what about the jobs? Actually, you'll generate many more jobs because you still need many more plumbers, masons, electricians, carpenters to do the fittings and fixtures in those houses, but those houses get ready in 8 hours. How do we go into that kind of league? Now, that's where our imagination needs to go. Let's look at the manufacturing sector. I mean, today, Kenya is primed towards the green economy. 70% of its power comes from thermal. Imagine the potential that Kenya has to start actually working, and the Africa Free Trade Area gives us a huge opportunity to allow that free movement of goods, services, and people. Ladies and gentlemen, the reality is, by 2050, the population of Africa will be 2.3 billion, of which 850 million will be young people. The median age of Kenya is 18. The median age of Sweden is 47. The West is aging. The Asian tigers are aging. You still need markets. You still need producers and consumers, which means that we have to invest in human capital, because how will they consume if they are left impoverished? As we've seen, how businesses have got lost simply because people lost an income, people lost an opportunity, people lost their wherewithal of existence. So which means that that investment has to take place in human capital in order to maintain human resilience. So we have undertaken with the government of Kenya what is known as a socio-economic recovery plan, the entire UN family, and our key priorities of that is health first. Like I said, there's no health, there is nothing, and that has been shown. So the famous words of Herophilus today have become even more relevant than it was yesterday. The second is protect people from joblessness, protect people from vulnerability, leave no one behind. The third is look at jobs and economic recovery. How do we rewire, rekindle, reimagine, rearrange the ecosystem in which we work today? Fourthly, look at the macroeconomic enterprise. Just before this, I was talking to Kiprono and I were having a chat, and he says, why don't we start looking at capital markets? Absolutely. This is what is the need of the hour, is to make Kenya not sitting at 59 in the ease of doing business, but get it into the top 20. Let's look at the whole macroeconomic enterprise. Let us look at making Kenya the best foreign direct investment destination. Today, actually, Kenya, regrettably, with all the advances it is making, in the neighborhood, it ranks the lowest in FDI compared to Tanzania or Uganda or Ethiopia. We have to change that. And finally, it's about social cohesion. When people get left behind and there's a deep sense of angst and worry and marginalization and a sense of fragility, do you start seeing pockets of instability, of violence? And that must never happen. Democracies are all a marathon. At one point you speed up, at one point you slow down, but you keep running. And that has to be the spirit. So we must, all of us, have a major stake, particularly the private sector, particularly business leaders, in making sure that our collective resolve in coming out of this crisis must not at any point be jeopardized by vested interests or anything else. And that is why the UN Secretary General constantly reminds us. He says that the world is in pieces, and we need world peace. We've got 75 million people today displaced as a result of poverty, as a result of conflict, as a result of environmental impact in their surroundings. In my view, Kenya is a beacon of hope in a region of great instability. What Kenya does will be emulated by many. The blueprint that we establish in this sort of a partnership of bringing the public sector, the private sector, the new or the renaissance of multilateralism, it will become the blueprint for the rest of the continent. God bless Kenya. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sid Chatterjee, UN Resident Coordinator. What a rousing presentation. I think my take home from that is the race to 2030 is certainly on. The race is a marathon. You slow down, you speed up, you may crawl, you may walk, you may stumble, you may fall, but you pick yourself up and you keep moving. So it is a process, not an event, and we're here, especially in this decade of action. We've got 10 years, people. We can do this. Even if you commit to just one, that'll be better than having done nothing at all. Remember, we are here launching the Safaricom 2020 Sustainable Business Report. The hashtag we're using online is Sustainable Safaricom. We are live on Facebook. We are live on YouTube, across our across our social media handles. And of course, asanteni sana to all of our guests who are still with us live via Zoom. It is the new normal in which we find ourselves, but we must move nonetheless. And if you think that we're just here to launch that sustainable business report and that is the end of it, no. Safaricom is responding to that decade of action and making this a long-term conversation. So we want to take this further. The conversation doesn't end here today once we launch the report. In fact, this is the beginning of a series of conversations that we are calling the Safaricom Sustainability Future Series.
As part of our efforts on private sector advocacy on sustainability and sustainable development goals, we are proud to introduce Sustainable Future Series, which is a thought leadership platform for business leaders on various sustainability issues. We seek to convene business leaders in Kenya and beyond to discuss how business can play a key role in finding solutions to humanity's most pressing challenges, such as inequality and climate change. We look forward to you joining us in our Sustainable Future series.
Definitely a set of conversations we will be having over the course of this year, so it's something you definitely want to tune in for. We will definitely have details for you at Safaricom PLC across all social media, giving you the dates and the schedules. The first of which is about to happen right now. So let's get into the first of that Safaricom Sustainability Future series and have the first of those discussions. Let me invite my panelists to join me up here for that conversation. Peter Ndegwa, the CEO of Safaricom PLC. We also have Flora Mutai. She's the CEO of Melvin Marsh International and also a board member at the United Nations Global Compact, as well as Mr. Kiprono Kitonyi. He's the chair of the Nairobi Securities Exchange. I know we're all virtual, but we will be glad to hear some of your round of applause and your claps as our guests make their way up here for this conversation. Karibuni sana, lady and gentlemen. Yeah, that's more like it. At least that gives us a little bit of energy to keep with this conversation. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you. We can organize to, yes, we all have microphones. And as you can see, trying to keep up with the social distancing guidelines. Many of you are virtual. We are here having this conversation. We have our sanitizers. We're ready to go. I think I would like to begin with just getting a pulse, across from all of you on your views on sustainability, particularly at this time. You have businesses that are struggling to stay afloat, and yet they've also made these commitments. What is that like? Let me start with you, Peter. Never has this been more important than right now, considering what's happening around the globe.
You can hear, yes. Thank you, Yvonne. Yes, there's no question that this is, we are living in unprecedented times, and this is when sustainability is called into action. For me, I'll start with a personal story, which is I'm only 6 months old at Safaricom. Mm-hmm. I joined the business at a time on the 1st of April. Many people have said it is April Fool's Day. It wasn't. Oh dear. It was actually a real day. Uh-huh. And I think for me, I've worked in business for a long time, and the biggest learning during this period has been the power of purpose. Safaricom purpose is about transforming lives. We are an essential service in this country. We have played a big role in keeping the country connected, and in particular ensuring that we leave no one behind. We have also seen a significant impact on business, especially on SMEs. Many people have lost jobs. SMEs plays a very big role. It reminds us just how important it is for us to ensure that as we succeed, we are the largest business in this country. As we succeed, we ensure that our society is successful and also our business environment is sound. So I am happy that we have played our role, but I think for me it's a big reminder that if you play your role in the sustainability agenda, you can make a big difference to society, but also to individuals.
Right, and weathering the storm, like this business report is about resilience through transition, and we're in a big transition phase. Flora, what sustainability even through disruptions that we've seen? You've certainly seen that in the manufacturing sector.
Yes, thank you very much, and good morning. Definitely, sustainability is really about, to me, around diversification. Well, first of all, having just a firm foundation, and that would also mean having a firm foundation, being able to be resilient, being diversified, and sort of being ready. Because if you look at what happened to us in the manufacturing industry, we saw, of course, the shock to supply chains. And what happened is then we had to start looking inward. And all of a sudden, manufacturers who had, had invested and were ready and sort of had been doing business, started getting demands that they couldn't even fathom, things that they were not ready for. So I know, like the SME ladies, the Fashion Council got together, collaborated, and actually started supplying, meeting the demands that were required. So for me, sustainability is really about what do you have, how do you build it, how do you diversify it, how do you strengthen it, so that you're able to heed to whatever call. Nobody saw this coming. And really, as industry, we've been actually asking everybody to buy Kenya, build Kenya, and it fell into our laps. And government then heeded to the call by actually saying, you know what, we're going to commit to PPE, we're going to commit to hospital beds, we're going to, we saw one of our manufacturers actually making a ventilator. Mutsimoto was making a ventilator and it was certified. We saw industries meeting, what did you call it? Regulators actually meeting industry and shortening the pace so that we could actually move forward.
Right, all of these processes that took so much time before, and there was a lot of bureaucracy, but those are some of the lessons that we're learning about, moving forward and building better. And like you say, buy Kenya, build Kenya was now well and truly upon us. If it's something we've been talking about for years, but now became a reality that was thrust on us. Kiprono, how has the pandemic, have you witnessed any impact it's had on the companies that are listed at the Securities Exchange?
Thank you very much. But before I respond to your question, allow me to just clarify to Dr. Bitangendemo that I am the chair of the Nairobi Securities Exchange and not the CMA.
Oh, CMA, yes.
Lest my regulator think that I'm usurping their position. And also to take the opportunity to really commend and laud Safaricom. I mean, apart from being an excellent corporate citizen, Safaricom is a very significant stakeholder to the NSE because it is it's a company with the largest market capitalization. And apart from that, Safaricom has really led the charge in terms of being a company with high integrity, a company that embraces values, a company that embraces the SDGs and has actually housed the Global Compact Initiative in Kenya. And there is empirical evidence globally that companies that embrace integrity and sustainability as their cornerstone create resilient wealth. It's always also very refreshing and uplifting to listen to Sid Chatterjee. He's a good friend of mine, and I think his message is spot on. He and I share opinions on many things, and I couldn't agree with him more that universal health care and food security are easily achievable targets for this country. And to respond to your question, and maybe just one more comment about Safaricom. I too, like Esther Mushemi, have done business with Safaricom since 2000 when they started. And it's actually completely unimaginable that a corporate could have so much consequence to the lives of a nation. I mean, that 20 years hence, to listening to the statistics shared to us by Dr. Ndemo, 64 billion shillings paid down to supply chain, direct and indirect employment of over 1 million people. That is really an achievement that we must, commend and laud as a country. Yes, I mean, who had predicted coronavirus? I mean, coronavirus existed in the realm of Netflix. I mean, nobody ever imagined that we would actually be in the situation that we are in today. Globally, we've seen supply chains disrupted, people lose livelihoods, we've seen distribution channels affected, incomes lost, and great human suffering. In Kenya, I mean, our GDP forecast was just below 6%, and now we are looking at a GDP growth this year of hardly or just past the 1% mark. So we've lost almost the 5 percentile points in our GDP growth. In the stock exchange, our all-share index has declined by 5%. And our 20-share index, which is a reflection of our top 20 performing companies, has lost 25% of its market cap. We are seeing in the recent past companies resurge. We're seeing companies that have been able to transform their services to the digital platforms, make a comeback. And we are confident that we are actually on the path to recovery. And we are confident that if companies embrace sustainability, embrace good corporate governance, that we shall see a full recovery in the months to come. Thank you.
Yeah, and you'd mentioned that there is evidence that companies that are embracing sustainability, are the ones that are doing better. Do you see a difference in the performance of the stocks for companies that are embracing sustainability versus those that are yet to adopt or are on the journey and maybe just beginning?
Without a doubt, and without making reference to any companies, in Kenya we have just over 60 companies listed on the NSE. And it's out there for you to see. I mean, the companies that have undertaken, to transform themselves, to innovate their services, to take, to work on their cost base, are the ones that are actually being able to see the light of day as we come out of the third quarter of this year. So we are, you will see many banks, especially now, starting to, give their results. And it'll be clearly evident. And I think if you are analytical, especially from a financial performance point of view, you will see that those companies that have embraced ideas of sustainability are actually going to be doing better.
Yeah. Yes, Peter.
Yvonne, I just wanted to build on what Kiprono is saying. When we speak to investors, Safaricom, we engage investors on a regular basis. We'll be announcing our results for half year soon. One of the areas they are very interested in is what we are doing for society and how sustainable is our business. Because when you look at the profile, although we have a large shareholding of a technical partner, but also government, we have a large number of strategic and institutional investors. They are interested in companies that connect their commercial objectives to societal needs. So when we talk to them about our intention to digitize and go into agriculture, to go into health, to support education, and also they are very interested in how that will help our business. So it is about connecting what we do commercially to delivering needs of society. And for me personally, I believe that doing good is good for business. I think there's always the temptation to think all we need as a corporate is you make money, you give a bit to society, but it's actually connecting what we do to how society becomes better. We serve the whole adult population in this country. So if Kenyans don't do well, Safaricom cannot be successful.
Absolutely.
And investors are very conscious of that.
They are. I mean, shared value principles goes beyond corporate social responsibility. So it's not about we've made money and we'll give some of it. It's about a collaborative effort, between the company and the ecosystem in which it thrives. Flora?
It actually even drives the morale of the staff. People are way more engaged. It drives innovation. it drives efficiency in your supply chain. Like I remember the team, the ladies, a lot of the suppliers in the Fashion Council somehow tended to be suppliers for Safaricom. And I remember getting a call from one of the ladies who manages them in the supply chain of SMEs in Safaricom, telling me, listen, can you connect me to KEBS, because my ladies are not getting the certification that they require. So I think it drives efficiency, it drives a big picture, and you know, the more business aligns itself to social and environmental and economic needs, I think, of a country, it does better.
All right, and Flora, then what should be, or what would be, the important contribution of the private sector towards you know, the achievement of the SDGs? You sit on the board of the UN Global Compact as well. How important is the contribution of the private sector, and what specifically, in your view, would that be?
There's a statement that says, and I think it is very, very relevant to Safaricom. If big doesn't do good, big is not good. Because, you know, you're using resources to really make your profits. And like we said, then if you have an environment or an economy, or, you know, that is not doing well, then it actually doesn't really help you. So for me, what I think is really important for private sector to do, I mean, the goals are large. You've heard, I mean, we have, you know, we have the health, we have housing, we have manufacturing, we have very many pillars. And we cannot keep running to government. They don't have finite resources. So when we have private sector actually aligning with developmental goals of a country, and you know, we have the brilliant framework of the 17 SDGs. That way, then you get actually, because companies are using their profits to actually deliver this, but they're doing it for the greater good, not only of this generation, but of the generation to come. So for me, it's about companies to realize it's not about, I think it's not about just the bottom line. We now look at it as a triple bottom line. And as we are doing that, it is also important to measure what that is, so that you actually see what impact you're getting. Because again, investors want to see what are you doing. It's not about anymore what are you earning. It's about what are you doing for the society, for the environment. And are you depleting, or are you going for looking forward?
And as we move through this transition, Peter, I'd just like to come back to you. As a business leader, what do you think is the role of sustainability in building, you know, resilient businesses? I think it was said here that, you know, and I think you said it, that the fundamentals need to be in place, and that's what enables you to bounce back following disruptions. What have been the major lessons for you during this time?
Yeah, I think given the kind of crisis we have faced, I think it's good to take stock both at a country level, at a corporate level, but also even at an individual level, and say, what can we learn from it? Because although it has been a major shock, there has been some real good lessons that we can take forward. I think there's no question that business operates in challenging times, in complex, you know, they talk about VUCA, you know, volatile, uncertain, so change is always happening. And I think there's no time that business has been tested as much as we've seen during COVID. So it's not, I think for me it is about ensuring that as we get into the future, we think of the key lessons rather than going back to where we were. So there are a couple of lessons. One is we've learned a lot about supply chains and how we can build more resilient supply chains. Not just about cost, not just about importing, but actually how we build flexibility. So local sourcing is one of them. Shared value, creating a lot more involvement of SMEs in the supply chain. We've learned a lot about the power partnerships and how important it is. We don't exist in isolation. As Safaricom, we've partnered with government in ensuring that we reduce the spread of the virus. We are partnering with banks and government to think about the post-COVID or actually the recovery period for SMEs. SMEs contribute 40% of economic activity. They contribute 80% to employment. So we can work together through partnership to enable SMEs recover, and as a result of recovery, we will have employment coming back. But I think internally, we've also learned about how do we build a more resilient business by having a more long-term thinking, so leading from purpose, having a strategy, having a framework like SDGs, and incorporating that framework in the way we do business. And just going back to the point about employees, we know that companies operate through trust and the reputation they have with society and consumers, and also with the employees and the goodwill of employees. Without serving society and also without thinking about the future, I just don't believe we can be a sustainable business. And we can role model, big companies can role model, and also small companies can role model what it is to lead from a sustainable frame.
Absolutely. What have the last 7 to 9 months been, when you reflect on that, Kiprono? The role of business in society, has that changed? Has that evolved? And what do you see as the future going forward?
Thank you. I think, start looking at it from the context of the global economy. Let me go from the macro to the micro. I mean, if we look at it from the context of the global economy, looking at it from the context of the African Continental Free Trade Area, from the regional economic bloc that we belong to and onto our own economy, I think there is no argument that some of the imperatives for sustainable growth and, going back to Keynesian economics that Seda talked about earlier, some of the imperatives include having a good, stable legal and regulatory environment, the ability to, tap the human resource potentiality of its people, the ability to give value and scale SMEs, the ability to embrace technology. I mean, M-PESA being one such technology that's had a massive impact, and access to affordable capital. I mean, if we look at the recent past, I mean, the events around coronavirus have led to a lot of difficulty in predicting economic performance. And this has seen, like I said to you earlier, many companies, both listed and unlisted, actually start to show very significant challenges in their financial performance. And like I said earlier, I mean, there is empirical evidence globally that those that embrace sustainability do have a better chance of going through these very turbulent times that we are in. And look, we actually, this is a very good time also as a country to take stock in our business, in our legal and regulatory environment, the business environment, and look at what it is that we can do better, make ourselves more agile, more competitive, and more innovative as we look at ways of coming out of this situation that we are in now. One of the things that has definitely been proven is that companies that embrace a sustainable approach have a greater liquidity of their shares, have easier access to talent, they embrace energy efficiency, ways of managing waste pollution, their labor relations, the gender equality of the workplace, and all those aspects actually tend to perform better. And I think I would also conclude by saying that, sustainability embracement is no longer a social initiative. It must be a strategic imperative for business.
It must be a strategic imperative for business, and that's where, Flora, you come in. So what are those strategies that businesses must embrace to mitigate this, to take them through the transition towards sustainability, towards success?
I think one is just your level of preparedness. We have the framework of 17 goals. Align that with your business strategy. Choose a few. I know Safaricom have chosen the 9. And like you said, even if it's an SME, pick 1, 2, or 3. It's difficult to pick one because they're so relevant.
Yes.
Pick 1, 2, or 3. And completely begin to have conversations, collaborations. The smaller ones can come to the larger ones who like building through their supply chain, capabilities. So it's really about preparedness, grabbing the bull by the horns, and realizing, like Kiprono is saying, that you do better. I think one of the narratives that had been there, but I think especially this pandemic has diluted that, is that investing in good is expensive.
Yeah.
But people need to see that there's business in it. Your company does better. You can drive your efficiencies and everything. So I think the more we do a little bit more of that, the better off that we're going to be. Adopt innovation. They came working. What did you call it? Social distancing. So all of a sudden, adopting to new technology in terms of machinery, equipment, we've seen that with our manufacturers. People all of a sudden saying, you know what, maybe robots are not a very far-fetched idea. And we do know in the Western world, they were actually serving with robots. You know, so it's also adopting to that, leapfrogging innovation. And for a country like ours, where technology is quite well represented, you know, especially I would say the SMEs, people moving up the value chain, adopt to a lot of this innovation. So there's a myriad of things that one can do to really make sure that we do drive sustainability.
Mm-hmm. Kiprono?
Yeah, at the NSC, actually, we have 3 initiatives to drive this. I mean, one is a sustainability guidance note. We are developing a sustainability guidance note to guide corporates in terms of how they can achieve some of these sustainable objectives that they have. Secondly, is we have come up with a sustainability guidance, sustainability index. This is an index that actually monitors companies that are taking on these initiatives. And finally is green finance. And I think we take pride in being the only boss in sub-Saharan Africa that has actually listed a green bond.
Yeah.
And we listed this jointly with London. And those 3 initiatives, I think, will go a long way in ensuring that we are actually doing something proactively.
Yeah, and it's about guiding them, and I like the idea of having, a system that guides many of the companies towards that. Peter, the role of mentorship, big brother kind of thing, Safaricom is doing it, 9 out of the 17 is no mean feat. What role do you think an organization such as Safaricom, business leaders like yourselves who are already on that journey can do, with your suppliers, with your dealers, with your partnerships?
Yeah, there's never, it's to keep raising the bar. There's never enough. And we are on a journey, so we have also not achieved the best we could. Is starting to measure ourselves against global benchmarks, rather than feeling comfortable because we are already on that journey. But for me, I think locally it's about role modeling and having sessions like this about making commitments and about measuring ourselves. That's why we are launching the sustainability report that shows this is what we said we would do on gender equality, or diversity and inclusion, or on climate change initiatives. And this is what we've achieved, and being transparent. Because at the end of the day, society is looking for companies, and actually indeed government, to be transparent. And so it's about making commitments, it's about measuring, but it's also about championing, so that on a regular basis, even SMEs understand the role that they can play. And it's actually understanding that we operate in an ecosystem, so raising the floor, so to say, so that those who operate within our ecosystem also adhere to some of the elements. So, for example, tomorrow I'm meeting with our supplier community to say, what are they doing on the whole diversity and inclusion and other KPIs that we've committed to.
Yeah, and I think the idea of being open and honest and transparent with your own journey towards sustainability, helps as role modeling for others. Where you're saying we've succeeded in this venture, we had challenges here and constraints here, and this is what we're doing towards overcoming those obstacles and the challenges. And I think that's an important tool going forward to say, hey, we're here, we're open, and like you say, you're on a journey. You've done 9, not all the 17,
yeah,
but just proving that,
Yes, a dose of humility is very helpful, because when you're a large company, sometimes there's a tendency to feel, you're big, you're large, you've achieved.
Right.
But actually, this allows us to see a lot of space and headroom to grow as a company.
Yes.
I think just to add to that, supporting. I think it is very, very important for large to support small, for governments to support MSME, because we know they're the ones who got hardest hit. They're the ones who jobs were laid off, because it always starts at the bottom. So I think it's also cushioning what you can. What we saw in the private sector do, government do, is important and should continue. In the retail space, just the other day I was with one of the large supermarkets, and they said, listen, we now have changed the way we buy for small. We buy for SMEs, we actually pay up front and we will carry the risk for them. And I think if you want to grow an economy, Africa, Kenya and Africa, where you have a large percentage are small and medium sized, I think big has to do good and support.
Yeah, and indeed, that's the work that you're doing with suppliers and dealers. I want to give you the last word, Peter, before I get the round from everybody else on just where we go from here. We know about the disruption of supply chains being one of the biggest challenges that we've seen now as we move towards building better, as we move forward. So what can businesses do? Disruption of the supply chains has been a big one. Do that maybe as you give us now your closing remarks on where we go from here and how we transit through this while still keeping our eye on sustainability.
Yeah, so we at Safaricom, we are looking at societal challenges that we can support, and that is primarily on the employment side, and that's why we are really committed to SMEs and to supporting the kind of recovery process. But with respect to supply chain, I think the key is to take the learnings, build different policies and also strategies within the business. So I think there was almost a feeling that the global market is connected. I can always get anything I want from around the world. I think that has been proved to be not necessarily true. It's about building flexibility within how we source. For us as a large company, it's also about encouraging use of small enterprises, SMEs. I think Steve mentioned that we spent, or it is Bonambitange who mentioned that we spent 64 billion on local sourcing. Yeah. So it's about actually understanding how we can build local sourcing within our value chains and rely a lot more and build a lot more flexibility within the value chain as a large corporate. If you're an SME, it is about thinking about the cost side, but also thinking about ability to get what you want, even when there is a disruption, because we do not know how long the COVID crisis will take, and therefore we need to build that level of resilience.
Absolutely. Resilience and having the fundamentals right and strong from the beginning. If that's any lesson I think I've taken away from this, it's that get your fundamentals right. And part of that is sustainability. Flora, your closing remarks?
I think like it was Winston Churchill, and I know this has been said, but it is so relevant. Never waste a good crisis. This conversation that we're having here around what have we learned, we need to continue doing that, because only if you sort of question your journey do you improve. So I think a lot more of that needs to be done, a lot more needs to be documented, and we continue to basically improve. But on my closing remarks, it's about requesting that we step up, be bold, take action in this, it's 10 years. Take action and actually begin to measure it well, or continue to measure it. We're assuming you already do. Mm-hmm. It's a big journey. Build resilient economies, societies, and supply chains. We saw the challenge. It doesn't need to be told. But I'm finding people slipping back very, very quickly to old habits. Oh, I used to import. Oh, the markets are opened, and here I go. Yeah. I understand. Sometimes you're not ready, but it is really important for us. And I would even say, for us in manufacturing, markets is one of the biggest drivers to growth. And we've always looked at our economy not being big enough. We've drawn the region. The whole continental free trade is a huge opportunity for us to even begin sourcing. I keep giving this narrative. Why do we buy cocoa and chocolates from other countries when it's here in West Africa? So it's really about being selfish and pushing the boundaries and saying we have it within us and we can do it, and challenging ourselves, and stop listening to scripts that were written way before.
Absolutely. Kiprana?
Firstly, mine would be to just, really challenge Safaricom to keep up the leadership in good corporate citizenry. I mean, I think they have really been at the forefront. Like I said earlier, they're a very important and significant stakeholder for us, occupying a very significant proportion or percentage of our total listed capital in Kenya. And in the last few months, we've seen a lot of shift in the class of assets that people are investing in. There's been a great focus and attention on fixed income securities in bonds, because you see the COVID crisis has actually affected the performance of business, and people would rather hedge themselves by moving into the bond market. But I would like to also say that it is about time that we really looked at the sustainability and the resilience of our SMEs in this country. I know we do quite well in the World Bank Ease of Doing Business Index, but I think we also need a realistic index to actually assess the pain points of businesses that are operating in our country. In my previous role as the head of Chamber of Commerce, I do know that businesses across the country are suffering from very, very significant challenges that need to be addressed sooner rather than later. And yes, we need a competitive index, as my sister here says. But finally, let me also just use this platform to say that at the NSC, we have big plans. There's many things that we are doing that will significantly change the way that we do business. We would like to actually encourage more companies to list. There isn't a problem on the demand side. There's more money chasing the stocks and there are stocks available. For the last 20 or so years, we only have about 60 companies that are listed. In Johannesburg, you have almost 500 listed companies. So we would like to encourage Melvin's Tea to list. We'd like to encourage Samchi to list. We'd like to engage the government to give us more state-owned enterprises to list. And we'd also like to carry out a crusade to make our Kenyans more sophisticated, more focused on investment. I think the time of Kenyans thinking that investment is driving to Kitengela to buy plots is over. We need them to buy shares in listed companies. We need to increase the number of listed companies, and we need to actually show them that that's a very, very good class of assets to own as part of one's portfolio. We have a lot of plans, and we shall be sharing them with you as time passes. Thank you.
Absolutely. Kiprono Kitonyi, thank you very much for your time. Peter Ndegwa and Flora Mutai, I thank you all, lady and gentlemen. So, ladies and gentlemen, we're back. And the 2020 Sustainable Business Report for Safaricom is titled Resilience Through Transition. We were just testing you to see how resilient you are. We are definitely resilient here, which is the ability to cope and bounce back from setbacks. Small little glitch, but here we are. We are back once again. Thank you so much for our guests who are still with us on Zoom. If you're still watching us live on Facebook and on YouTube, the hashtag is Sustainable Safaricom. At Safaricom PLC are our social media handles across all platforms. We're back. We're resilient like we never left, and we are just about to get to the important moment of finding out what is in the 2020 Sustainable Business Report from Safaricom. But as you heard from the panel discussion we had just a short while ago, is that the power of SMEs, the power of partnerships, as Peter Ndegwa, the CEO, said, and one of the most important ingredients of a successful company is it being resilient and having a reliable supply chain, which we have just talked about, and one that is also flexible, like Peter Ndegwa said. So for the last 20 years, Safaricom has worked and empowered many suppliers and recognized their resilience and their hard-working spirit. Now, one of those has a unique story whose relationship with Safaricom is as old as Safaricom itself. Hers is the embodiment of a resilient company that is going beyond. Let's take a look at the story now of the CEO of Extra Dimensions, Wamboi Njora.
Extra Dimensions has been at Safaricom for the last 20 years. We are actually as old as Safaricom. Extra Dimensions started off as an events management company. We graduated to doing fantastic events like Safaricom Live, jazz festival, all concerts, and all internal events for Safaricom. And then recently, in the year 2017, we diversified into technology. So we are now into telecommunication infrastructure, where we connect fiber for Safaricom, fiber to the home, FTTH it is called, and also FTTB. We have grown our capacities to up to 500 at our highest. One of the areas that I must say that Safaricom had a direct impact for our company, Extra Dimensions, is the SDGs. We actually purposely, on purpose, started onboarding the youth, women, who had no hope in life, who had no education, and now gave them work and trained them on the job. Then we now started looking at our impact, and we started seeing our value. We have realized that our company has a responsibility towards our communities. What has helped Extra Dimensions through this period is because pre-COVID, we had already started diversifying. So one of the things that I would really like to encourage young companies is that do not look at anyone who has been in business and now, because they are still continuing, then you think you are a failure. No. So you, as a company that has been affected, what is your fallback? Please start looking for other areas where you can also diversify.
What is your fallback plan? Are you resilient? Are you diversifying? Are you sustainable? That is what we are talking about today. And congratulations to Wamboi Njora for 20 years of success and 20 years of sustainability. So what is the sustainability all about here at Safaricom? Let's get an overview now of the 2020 Safaricom Sustainable Business Report from Karen Basie. She's the Senior Manager, Sustainability here at Safaricom. Karen, karibu.
Safaricom board members and CEO, Safaricom leadership team, chief guest seed, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning. I have the honor of presenting to you Safaricom's 2020 Sustainable Business Report. Thanks to all the speakers and panelists who went before me for setting the tone, and thank you for those joining us online today, and those of you who are on this journey with us. Our theme for this report is resilience through transition. It highlights how we face significant disruptions during the year, but the foundations of the business proved to be resilient and strong. This year's theme, resilience, comes with a clear opportunity and a call to action for us all to grow purposeful businesses by addressing the information, products, services, and gaps that drive business resilience. Many of these gaps can be addressed by the provision of business-driven solutions within the framework of the Sustainable Development Goals. This is our 9th report, and as you've heard, it covers the period 1st April 2019 to 31st March 2020. We use the GRI, the Global Reporting Initiatives Framework, and which is the world's most widely used sustainability reporting framework. In this I'm about to share with you, it provides details on how our business, our products, and our services deliver on the 9 SDGs that we committed to. And over time, we've been able to draw certain trend analyses as we go along in reporting. At this juncture, allow me to recognize the continued leadership and guidance that we get from the board, from our CEO, from our EXCO, and mostly from the Chief Corporate Affairs Officer. Thank you, Steve. I would also like to recognize the 35 cross-functional team members across the business, or the champions, who've helped collect the data for this report. I would also like to thank the co-sustainability team that is in the room. I can see Michael Kowech, Samson Kanai, Agnes Kariuki, and Owen Ombima. Thank you so much. This report has, we've put it together with KPMG. Thank you, KPMG, for ensuring we stay true to the GRI and challenging our beliefs in SDGs. I would also like to thank Deloitte for assuring the non-financial numbers in this report. So our sustainability numbers are assured by Deloitte. And finally, but not the least, I would like to thank Sanda for the initial thoughts when we started working on this report. And Sanda, I know you are online. Thank you for waking up early or for staying late to be with us on this journey. So the true impact of society. As a business, we remain committed to our purpose of transforming our lives, So our latest True Value report indicates that we have created 9 times value to the Kenyan society. We've contributed 6% to the Kenyan GDP, and that we continue to leverage the power of mobile technology to deliver shared value propositions that disrupt inefficiencies and impact lives positively in health, agriculture, and education sector. Noteworthy here is the growing contribution from the social externalities, particularly through the social value created by M-PESA as a product as it grows and evolves. Our material matters. We have 5 material matters that we report on in this report. So governance, business ethics and risk, building regulatory resilience, our network, our environmental stewardship, and our innovation. Let's take a deep dive into each of these material matters. At the end of this presentation, you'll get a copy of this report, and those online, the report will be uploaded on the Safaricom website. Key highlights from governance, business ethics and risks. For us here, we consider sound corporate governance, ethical behavior, and robust risk management to be fundamental to our commercial sustainability. We operate ethically, transparently, and accountably if we are to avoid legal and reputational risks and maintain high stakeholder trust, confidence required to maintain our sustainability and success. The field of technology is fast evolving, and with this evolution, customer and data privacy, cybersecurity, data protection are gaining increasingly relevance and prominence. In the year under review, we strengthened our internal structures and capacities to address cybersecurity, customer privacy, data protection. We also helped our customers tackle fraud. We continue to work closely with the Directorate of Criminal Investigation, and through our collaborative efforts, 54 individuals were apprehended and prosecuted for various offenses, ranging from irregular SIM registrations, electronic fraud, and identity theft. A little statistics on the business ethics. The graph on the right-hand side of the slide details the wide range of reviews that we have undertaken over the last 4 years. However, as detailed on the left side of the slide, we acknowledge that fraud and corruption exist. And when this is confirmed, we take prompt and firm action because fraud and corruption erode trust. We continue to report transparently on the number of fraud and corruption cases that we've investigated and dismissed or reported to law enforcement. Not so that it becomes the headline for tomorrow's newspaper, but as an expression of our commitment to taking firm action on corruption and to create space for businesses to do so. Looking at the trends on the graph, you might be tempted to think that we are doing well or there's a positive indication. However, we've done a lot of ethics awareness, we've done a lot of fraud and corruption detection. So the processes may be working, but because of the nature of disciplinary cases remains dynamic, the change in statistics indicates neither an improvement nor a worsening environment. Looking ahead, we will intensify our data privacy initiatives and awareness across the business. We shall continue to promote ethical business practices and a culture of integrity within Safaricom, its business partners, and support any efforts by other organizations that have pledged to abide by the same. The second material matter is building regulatory resilience. We are committed to making a positive contribution to our industry and Kenyan society as a whole by operating within the boundaries of fast-evolving regulatory environment. Our commitment to remain compliant calls for us to continuously expand our ecosystem engagement and build lasting influence with a growing number of stakeholders. To ensure that we remain compliant with regulatory requirements, we regularly assess our processes against all applicable laws and regulations and on an ongoing basis. We also engage with our regulators proactively on all issues through a variety of channels. Some of the regulators we engage with include the Communications Authority, the Central Bank of Kenya, the Competition Authority, and the National Environment Management Authority. Just to highlight 2 things from this area, we've all heard about the Data Protection Act. A key highlight of the year was introduction of this legislation around customer privacy. As a fundamental human right, privacy has become a key focus area for us as technology continues to evolve and there's demand on personalized data. So Safaricom is committed to ensure that all customer data remains protected from misuse. We have adopted our own robust means of ensuring that global standards of data protection are implemented. Under spectrum management, spectrum is a national resource that is allocated by the Communications Authority. Current regulations state that spectrum can be allocated to any licensed player regardless of their customer size or intended use. In recognition of the fact that Kenya's telecommunications space continues to evolve, the Communications Authority issued draft guidelines to govern the management and oversight of spectrum usage and allocation in Kenya for public review. Safaricom, alongside other industry players, we submitted our reviews for consultation, and we are waiting for the feedback in this current financial year. Looking ahead, we'll continue liaising with the CA regarding the full implementation of several new critical regulations ranging from the quality of service framework, spectrum management, and SIM registration guidelines. We will also continue to build on policies and processes to enhance child online protection. We'll also continue laying the foundations for favorable regulatory conditions as we explore new business products and services. Our network, this is the core foundation of our business. It's a platform through which we deliver our products and services and on our promise to transform lives. We recognize the role that the network connectivity plays in relation to building socioeconomic resilience in society, and the critical components of our network are network quality, network availability, network stability, and network coverage. We remain committed to building a network that is resilient. Some of these numbers have been mentioned, but in the year under review, we focused on expanding fixed and mobile broadband coverage to meet growing demands for data connectivity and faster data speeds. During the year, we rolled 365 2G sites, 368 3G sites. These were mainly in the rural areas. We continue to support our ambition of digitizing our customers. We continued an aggressive expansion of 4G network, so we added an additional 1,551 4G-enabled sites to the network. I'm delighted to report that we added an extra 2,300 kilometers to our fiber network, and we continue to connect businesses. We connected 1,532 enterprise buildings. We connected an additional 42,105 homes. And as a result, we've ended up connecting 142,000 homes, 11,911 businesses on our fiber network. Looking ahead in this space, we'll continue to accelerate rollout of 4G services and 4G-enabled sites. Our target is to transition our entire network into being a 4G network. We also plan to conclude our current trials on 5G-enabled sites and commission 50 commercial sites in this financial year. Under environmental stewardship, we take our social and moral responsibility to manage our environmental impact seriously. We recognize that environmental considerations are not separate from our core business, but an integral part of our business sustainability and success. We remain committed to operating in an environmentally sound and sustainable way and managing and reporting our environmental performance in a transparent and open manner. Looking at the carbon emissions, we committed to being a net zero emitting company by 2050, and as part of this commitment, we continue to monitor and report on our carbon footprint. The graph on the screen shows that we've achieved a 9% reduction in our overall footprint. The reduction was driven by a drop in scope 3 emissions caused by COVID-19 and associated reduction in travel. Diesel and generator consumption also decreased, so we've reduced the use of diesel across the business because from technology, when power goes, the battery banks kick in, then diesel is the last resort. We've also gotten more accuracy and improved measuring of electricity consumption by working with Kenya Power. We remain committed to implementing our net zero plan, and looking forward, we will register our carbon reduction initiative with the Carbon Disclosure Project so that we continue holding ourselves accountable in this journey. We'll continue our partnership with the Kenya Forest Services towards achieving our target of growing 5 million trees in 5 years. Looking at innovation, allow me to point out M-PESA Global as a service that enables M-PESA registered customers to send and receive money from countries across the world. It continued to gain momentum during the year, and according to Central Bank of Kenya statistics, it's already responsible for more than 50% of all inbound remittances to Kenya. The IoT has ushered, the Internet of Things has ushered in an evolution in telecommunications sector that is enabling new life-enhancing products and services across different sectors. In the period under review, our enterprise products team focused on developing solutions that connect devices and sensors to the internet that can collect and exchange data. At the close of the period under review, we had over 700,000 devices connected to our network and software solutions, and we are piloting a range of solutions in a variety of fields, including smart water and power metering, telematics, and asset tracking. Looking ahead in innovation, We'll continue to develop and evolve our data analytics models and tools to drive smarter business decisions and actions. We'll continue to explore opportunities for partnerships, mergers, acquisitions to win in digital ecosystem, in select digital ecosystems. We have a range of 7 stakeholders that we always report on, but for the purposes of today, allow me to focus on 2 stakeholders. One, the customer. So we changed our brand promise from Twaweza to For You. We promise to be simple, transparent, and honest in the way we deal with our customers. Among the significant changes we made as part of this campaign were no expiry of our data bundles, commitment to serve our customers in under 5 minutes, increase in size of data bundles by more than 45%, provision of more personalized experience in our retail shops. For the customer, what do we have looking ahead? We will be notoriously customer-obsessed by listening more to our customers, drawing from their frustrations and imaginations to co-create better solutions for them. We will automate the onboarding process for our enterprise customers, and we will continue to expand and enhance our self-service channels, such as Zuri. On the employees' part, we are committed to ensuring that everyone lives the purpose and spirit of Safaricom, guaranteeing that we obtain diverse talent and critical skills needed now and in the future, and deliver our ambition to be the best place to be that ensures personal growth as well as business performance, while shaping an effective and efficient digital organization that is notoriously customer-obsessed. In the year under review, regrettably, 1 fatality was recorded through a road accident. We have set out an aggressive target, that is 5% of our workforce will comprise people living with disability by 2025. Currently, we are at 2.3%. We are committed to equal gender representation at all levels. Our target is to achieve 50-50 gender parity at senior management levels by 2025. At the close of the reporting period, the proportion of women in senior management role was 35%. While we are satisfied that we are moving in the right direction, we acknowledge that there's still so much work to be done if we are to achieve our ambitious target by 2025. Looking ahead for the employees, we plan to become a zero fatality organization through 100% home safe approach. We'll continue to support our staff work safely from home during COVID-19. We have developed a new business and organization culture called the Spirit of Safaricom, which is guided by 4 elements, that is purpose, customer obsession, innovation, and collaboration. In closing, in the face of COVID-19, each of us has to play our part in keeping ourselves safe. Safaricom is here with you as we move forward in these tough times, but just to mention some of the things that we have done. We have powered the 719 coronavirus toll-free line, Bonga for Good, which enabled Kenyans to purchase essential foodstuff using their loyalty points, and the free Lipa na M-PESA and person-to-person transaction below 1,000. In conclusion, why do we do this report? Simply put, what gets measured gets managed. Thank you very much for your kind attention.
Thank you, Karen. I know we can give her a bigger round of applause for that, for putting this together. Thank you so much for taking us through it, and now we have an understanding of it. It's the decade to action. It's 2020. We have 10 years to go. We're saying the race to 2030 is on. We're committed to crossing the finish line one way or the other. We may slow down, we may speed up, we may crawl, we may walk, we may stumble, we may fall, but we will cross the finish line with success. And you can liken our journey to sustainability in 2030 to a race, something that Kenyans know all too well about.
Every morning here in E10, hundreds of people wake up to join the race. This race is one we run every single day. But it's not just here. In Ngong Hills, in Nandi, in Nairobi, in different parts of Africa and the world at large.
Is going to get it. Igadir is second. Mikalufi, I think, is going to get third, but it's going to be close on the line.
There is a growing group of runners who push on this race. We are always on a strict program, conditioning our every muscle. We need mind, body, and soul, but most of all, we need each other. We need our fans. We need our country cheering for us. We need pace setters, and we need running mates. We do this every day because there is one goal in our mind: to get the gold, to win the race. Join us as we run the race towards sustainability.
Ladies and gentlemen, the race is on, the race to 2030, and we will win. Would now like to do a symbolic handing over of the torch. This was something that was put together by the UN and the UN resident coordinator, Sid Chatterjee, here to do this symbolic handing over. Please come on stage as you hand over this torch. It is a race that we all intend to win. Please get up on stage as we do this. And it is a relay race. It is one that we will run together. We will win together. And there we go, the symbolic handing over of the torch as the race to 2030 is well and truly on. Ladies and gentlemen, let's have a round of applause as he hands that over to the private sector, taking the lead there, manufacturing, and also with Safaricom today as they launch the Sustainability Business Report for 2020. It is the 9th such report to be launched. And like we know in Kenya, we do very well when it comes to races. We win every single time. And we pledge right here today to win when it comes to 2030. Every single commitment we have made here today, we pledge to do this together as we run the race. Ladies and gentlemen, please continue to stay on stage. Thank you very much. We can move over to the right-hand side of the stage. I will get that for you. Thank you very much, Peter. As we get to the next stage, which is to officially launch this 2020 Safaricom Sustainable Business Report launch. And I would like to invite a number up here. May we have Dr. Bitange Ndemo, who's representing the chair for this moment. We have Flora Mutai already. Steve Chege, if you don't mind, joining us here, the Chief Corporate Affairs Officer, as we do the symbolic handing over the launch of this report. It is titled Resilience Through Transition. Ladies and gentlemen, this launch is officially on. I'd like to ask as well the Senior Manager for Sustainability, please get on stage. This is your project. This is your baby. We thank you for making this possible and making this happen. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Karen Basia, the Senior Manager Sustainability, joining them on stage. Please give them a round of applause. We definitely look forward to getting into the details of this, as Karen has already elucidated earlier. Resilience through transition. We are learning the lessons from the disruptions that we have faced, the major ones. But like we're saying, this is not a crisis that will be wasted. We're definitely learning some great opportunities here. Safaricom, for you, pledging here and now today to continue in its quest to 2030, to sustainability, to the 9 that they have committed to. Asanteni sana, ladies and gentlemen. We really thank you for your time. Thank you so much to the entire team of sustainability for putting this together, for spearheading and for championing this here today, not just for Safaricom, but indeed for all other businesses across the country. Let's give them one last round of applause, those of you who are here, as well as those who are watching us live virtually. The hashtag we're using is Sustainable Safaricom. It doesn't end here. Remember, the Safaricom Sustainable Future Series continues. Please look out for more information at Safaricom PLC on Facebook, on Twitter, and on Instagram as well, for plugging into those conversations as Safaricom takes the lead, provides the platform, convenes those thought leaders as we move towards this decade of action, 2020 to 2030. I would like to thank very much our special guests who are here. Thank you very much, Mr. Sid Chatterjee, UN Resident Coordinator, for making the time for us, Dr. Bitangi Ndemo, Peter Ndegwa, Steve Chege, Mr. Kiprono Kitonyi. We also had the representative from Treasury, Asante Sana. We thank you for your time here. And we are also thankful to Flora Mutai from Melvin Marsh International. She's also a board member of the United Nations Global Compact. All employees of Safaricom, all board members, and all invited guests who are joining us live via Zoom, and to all of you who are joining us live on Facebook and on YouTube. Remember, www.sustainability.me.ke. Go there and make your pledge for your organization. It'll take you no more than 5 minutes to do it. Let's get towards sustainability. It is not just profit for its sake. It is profit and purpose. It is sustainability for all, not just for making money. Thank you so much for this. The hashtag is Sustainable Safaricom. Let's keep that throughout the day. I'm Yvonne Okwara. Have a good morning and a successful and sustainable day ahead. Bye-bye.